Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's sermon prep. This week we are celebrating the sixth Sunday in Ordinary Time, Year A, and our readings are as follows. The first reading is from the book of Sirach, chapter 15, verse 15 to 20, and our responsorial psalm is Psalm 119, verses 1 to 2 and 4 to 5 and 17 to 18. While our second reading is taken from the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians, chapter 2, verses 6 to 10, and our gospel is a rather very long gospel, about 20 verses long. We're going to be reading from Matthew chapter 5, verses 17 to 37. And in our first reading from the book of the prophet Sirach, it says that if you will, you can keep the commandments, and they will save you. If you trust in God, you too shall live. He has placed before you fire and water. Stretch out your hand for whichever you wish. Before man there is life and death, good and evil, and whatever he chooses will be given to him. Some people argue that the worst gift that God gave to mankind, to human beings, is the gift of free will. But we shouldn't forget that free will is an act of love, and total act of the self-giving of God. And as we hear then in our first reading, that God gave us both, and we have the responsibility to choose whether we choose life or we choose death, whether we choose to be for God or we choose to be against God. We are free, but also we are accountable for what we choose. God gives us the freedom, and we know that, as you'd remember when we were learning in primary school, every right comes with the responsibility. Every choice comes with a consequence. So God gives us freedom, but He also holds us accountable for whatever we are going to do. And our responsorial psalm, blessed are those who walk in the law of the Lord. Blessed are those whose way is blameless, who walk in the law of the Lord. Blessed are those who keep his decrees. With all their hearts they seek him. It basically speaks about that, of saying that we then search ourselves with that freedom and that accountability. We look at ourselves at what does God then want of me? Not me in relation with other people, not me in acting part as part of a bigger church, but me as an individual. What does God want of me and my life? How am I meant to please God with the little that I have? Our second reading then from the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians, chapter 2, verses 6 to 10. Brethren, among the mature we do impart wisdom, although it is not a wisdom of this age, or of the rulers of this age who are doomed to pass away. But we impart a secret and hidden wisdom of God, which God decrees before all ages for our glorification. St. Paul is continuing about this wisdom of God, how it seems so foolish in the eyes of the people, but how it's God's wisdom is not the same. How we shouldn't walk in what mankind tells us is the right way, in what mankind calls us to do, but we should walk how Christ wants us to walk. We should behave how Jesus looks at us. That is what the wisdom of God is. And Paul is saying that's how we should live. And he says, but as it is written, what no eye has seen, no ear had heard, nor the heart of man conceived, what God has prepared for those who love him. That has to be for me one of the most precious and most beautiful pieces of literature, or pieces of scripture. What no eye has seen, what no ear has heard. And he says the human heart can't even make sense of it, the things that God has in store for us. greater wisdom than what the world offers us. What the world has offering us is already before us, and most of it, you and I have tried it, and we have seen that it's not as good as it offers, as it sees, at least at eye value. What God offers us is much more important. The wisdom of God is more important than the wisdom of the world. And then in our gospel reading, we hear Jesus making comparisons between the laws of the Old Testament and the laws of what he brings about. It's going to be words of, you have heard it being said, but I say to you. He says that you have heard it said to the men of old, you shall not kill, and whoever kills shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you that everyone who is angry at his brother shall be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother shall be liable to the council. You have heard it being said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you, everyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. For if your right eye causes you to sin, pluck it out and throw it away. It is better to lose one of your members than for your whole body to go into hell. And we know the same thing. It says, if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body go to hell. Jesus is ushering in a new law. He's saying, yes, the Old Testament law from God was powerful, it was good, but I'm ushering in a new law. I'm ushering something new. I'm ushering, if you were, a new wisdom. A wisdom unlike the wisdom of the world. He brings us back to basics of what a Christian should live like and how a Christian should behave. We're still on chapter 5 of Matthew's Gospel, so this is an extension of what we call the Beatitudes. How do we live? What law do we listen to? What wisdom do we search meaning from? And that's what we're going to be looking at then this coming weekend as we celebrate the 6th Sunday of Ordinary Time. And just a reminder that at our 5 o'clock Mass, we've got confirmation. So the Archbishop is going to be saying Mass, saves me from preaching. On Saturday evening Mass, that is going to be our confirmation Mass. And so the readings for that Mass are different, and hence the homily is going to be different. But these we're going to be dealing with at our 7 o'clock and our 9 o'clock Mass. Hope to see you there. You take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.